Today, we're diving into another egregious case of media spin that we've seen this year. A major media outlet, Politico, has just crowned New York Attorney General Letitia James as a shadow attorney general in their fantasy Democratic cabinet. They're praising her as a resistance hero. What they fail to mention is that she's under federal criminal investigation for mortgage fraud and perjury. See, that little detail didn't make the cut. Let's talk about how the media is not just ignoring the facts, but actively rewriting the story. This isn't journalism, it's narrative laundering. Welcome to Nellie Miranda. Now, I know some people are going to say they're tired of hearing about Letitia James. Wake me up when she gets a prison sentence, or nothing is going to happen because politicians are above the law. And honestly, I get it. In many cases, all they face is a slap on the wrist, maybe a fine, if anything at all. But this is bigger than that. This is about raising awareness. It's about exposing patterns of behavior and getting people to really think about who they're voting for. It's about breaking the silence where Black voters feel pressured to vote Democrat simply because of race or identity politics. It's about putting the facts out there, outside of CNN, outside of legacy media spin, and letting people decide for themselves. All right. Now that I've said my piece, let's get into it. So let's rewind. On May 27th, Politico published a puff piece titled 21 Unexpected Heavy Hitters for a Democratic Shadow Cabinet. And wouldn't you know it, Letitia James, who's been laser focused on suing Donald Trump, made their dream team. According to Politico's Bill Scher, she's the ideal shadow attorney general. Why? Because she's been leading the charge against Trump. I'm going to read you the segment that he wrote on Letitia James. Bear with me. It says, Letitia James, shadow attorney general. Perhaps the most effective Democrats in the country right now are the 22 Democratic state attorney generals tying up Trump's executive orders in the court. But only one can say that she won a civil fraud case against the Trump family business with a $450 million judgment, and that's New York's Letitia James. It goes on to say, that makes James uniquely qualified to argue that Trump is abusing the office of the president to enrich himself while destabilizing the global economy for everyone else. James hasn't stopped tangling with Trump in court. Joining several of her peers, she has filed suit charging that the White House does not have the legal authority to unilaterally impose tariffs, dismantle the Health and Human Services Department, or claw back public health funds to state governments. She also is exploring possible insider trading charges. The Trump administration has responded in seeming retaliatory fashion, opening up a federal Bureau of Investigation probe into James for suspicion of mortgage fraud. While most presidents would not comment on active investigations, Trump told reporters in the Oval Office that James is a horrible, horrible human being, and I think she's a total crook. Unbowed, James touted her nearly 24 lawsuits against the Trump administration and dismissed the investigation into her as nothing more than retribution. Few get under Trump's skin as well as James, and while so many others have acquiesced after facing threats from Trump, James is a role model of resistance. A role model of resistance, huh? Letitia James was screaming to the top of her lungs before, straight pit bulling it. But the last time she was talking about these so-called baseless allegations and mistakes, she was more like a Yorkie, cool and calm.
This investigation into me is nothing more than retribution. It's baseless. It has to do with the fact that on a power of attorney, I mistakenly indicated that I was a state of Virginia, but prior to that, I had indicated to the mortgage broker that, in fact, in bold cap letters, that I am not a resident of Virginia and never will be.
But here's what Politico didn't tell you. That on April 14th, 6 weeks before the article dropped, Letitia James was referred to the Department of Justice for federal prosecution by the Federal Housing Finance Agency. She's facing allegations of mortgage fraud, bank fraud, insurance fraud, and making false statements under oath. In other words, crimes that carry real prison time. But to Politico, that's just irrelevant. But let's get specific. According to whistleblower documents and investigative research by forensic accountant Sam Antar, James lied on a mortgage application in August 2023. She declared under penalty of perjury that she planned to make a Virginia home her primary residence. But then just 15 days earlier, she wrote an email saying, quote, "This property will not be my primary residence." So you tell me, is that a mistake or premeditated fraud? Because James allegedly misrepresented her Brooklyn brownstone for over 20 years, claimed it was a 4-unit building when it was actually a 5-unit property. That falsehood let her qualify for federal mortgage benefits that she was not entitled to, including a special CARES Act loan modification program that's only meant for buildings with 4 units or fewer. But hey, who's counting when you're a Democrat with a press pass to immunity? I mean, let's just call it for what it is. It's media bias and damage control. Politico is whitewashing a federal fraud suspect and dressing her up as a future leader of the left. They're not reporting the news. They're curating a narrative. Sam Antar said it best. This is not political analysis. It's propaganda with a byline. And I agree. Because let me ask you something. If this were a Republican under federal investigation for mortgage fraud, would Politico have listed them as a top pick for anything? Of course not. They would be crucified. Front page headlines, wall-to-wall CNN coverage, calls to resign before dinner. But Letitia James, she's a Democrat. She went after Trump, so she gets a free pass and a glowing feature in Politico's fantasy football roster of Democrats. This isn't just about Letitia James. It's about a media establishment that has decided their job isn't to inform you, it's to protect their team. They're not asking hard questions. They're not holding the powerful accountable. They're running cover for corrupt officials and gaslighting anyone who dares to notice. This is how empires rot from the inside. One lie of omission at a time. Letitia James is currently under federal investigation. There is sworn evidence of perjury, mortgage misrepresentation, and bank fraud, and she's still New York's Attorney General. Still using taxpayer dollars, still attending high-profile events, still being celebrated by legacy media like nothing's wrong. And if we had a functioning media, every outlet in America would be asking one simple question. Why is someone facing criminal prosecution still in charge of law enforcement? If Politico wants to write fan fiction, do so and label it clearly. Do not insult our intelligence with a shadow cabinet list that reads more like a resistance fantasy novel. You guys have to make sure that you read beyond the headlines, check the sources, call out the spin, and demand accountability. Because the truth isn't shadowy, it's just being buried. Should Letitia James step down? And should media outlets be forced to disclose criminal investigations when promoting public officials? Let me know in the comments. And if honest commentary brings you value, please make sure you like, subscribe, as it really helps support the channel. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.